Are across the known world, and welcome to another fun interview of The Crown Between Two Roses. Today it's only one rose, myself, Countess Beatrice, and we are speaking with Agostino and Elizabeth from the Barony of Aneala. At the beginning of all of our interviews, we do an acknowledgement of country, so please just bear with us. Good gentles, we come together in the spirit of search for truth, experimental archaeology, and good friendship. And in this space, I, Countess Beatrice Maria Malatesta, would like to acknowledge the lands on the people on which we gather today, their elders, past, present, and emerging. So thank you very much for that. And welcome, Your Excellencies.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having us. And we would like to acknowledge that today we're on the country of the Lochac people.
Thank you so much. So you are from the Barony of Aneala. Can you please tell us where that is across our magnificent kingdom of Lochac?
Well, Aneala lies on the western coast of Australia, and it consists of the Perth CBD and surrounding suburbs, and like a little bit north and south. So most of the metro region of Western Australia.
Yep, and our group includes a canton of Dragon's Day, which is sort of further south in the Perth region. We've got one active college at the moment, a little hamlet even further south, so lots going on.
Wow, it sounds very busy over there because Western Australia is, I think, the largest state in Australia.
Certainly geographically.
Yeah.
Yes. So does your barony take in the rest of the state, or is it only just around the Perth area?
Currently, it's around the Perth area, and if you look at like the postcodes, how it's sort of worked out, it's only the Perth area. But we've also not heard anything from people in regional Western Australia as to whether they're wanting to.
Yeah, we don't really have any members currently out in the sticks or way up north or anything like that. So maybe one day.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That would be good. I know that there was some members that had gone over there, and they're fly in, fly out. So they go over from in Kalgoorlie and into the mining areas.
Yeah.
So I'm asking because there's not many of us who live on the eastern side of Australia that can really gauge that distance. So how far away are those locations?
Oh, so Kalgoorlie, I was talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
I think it's about a 6-hour drive. Is that right?
Yeah, it's about a 6-hour drive.
Out of Perth. So that's a fair ways. And I mean, to get up to the mines and that kind of thing, they call it fly in, fly out because you don't drive that distance. You definitely have to come on a plane. Do we have many FIFO members currently? Mistress Ant lives here in Aneala, and she flies up to the mines. I'm not sure exactly where, but she flies about the place. So it's a really long way though. Really long way.
It sounds like it. It really does.
Yeah.
So
nearest group in the east, I think it's pretty much like a 3-4 drive across the Nullarbor to get over to Adelaide.
Wow, that's a little bit crazy. Like, we do talk about driving times, and 12 hours is from one city to another, but yeah, there's definitely quite a distance there and not a lot in between. No. So the Barony of Aneala, can you tell us a little bit about the history with the name and the device?
Yeah, absolutely. So Aneala, the name comes from Celtic, and it means the swan. Originally, the group was called Aneala Shire, or the Shire of the Swan. I'm told that it's named after swans that were on the original training grounds when the group started. But to be honest, the black swan is our state animal emblem. It's our state bird. And so that's why we've got obviously black swans on the device. and it would have been black swans at the original training grounds as well.
Yep.
I believe they were a bit of a nuisance.
Oh, really?
That's the story that I've heard. And then we've got our demi-sun at the bottom half of the device, which the story I've heard is that that's because here, of course, the sun sets in the west over the ocean. So it's a bit of a unique view, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely different, something different for me. I remember the first time I saw the sunset over the water. Wow, that was crazy, because I've just grown up on the East Coast, and it was the sun rises. That's it. So it feels like a little bit of upside down.
A little bit, but it's really cool. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a nice thing to have represented on our device.
Yeah. And I know the barony of Aneala is the second oldest barony that we have across Lochac. Do you know anything of when it started or any of that history?
Oh, a little bit of it. We know that it was originally a shire, so Aneala Shire, and it was under the Kingdom of the West in the beginning.
Yep.
Um,
And I think it transitioned to be a barony during Mirren's tenure as Baron and Baroness. They were the third. Yeah.
oh, we were a March barony before we were a barony.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I forgot about that part.
Yes. So we're a little fuzzy on that history, to be honest, because we weren't around. But we do know that we're going on, 35 years,
35
a bit more than
years.
that, depending on how you count it now. So yeah, quite a long history, a long tradition of the SCA here in WA, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds amazing, though. It really does. So what would you say that your barony is known for?
Being really far away.
Yeah. Long drive, long flight here.
Yeah, expensive to come traveling here.
Yeah.
But also, I think we're quite known for our arts and sciences. I think we have a really active arts and sciences community, and yeah, I think people have really recognised some of the work that happens over here.
So is there a particular time period, or is it just across the board?
Pretty much across the board. There's people interested in all periods here. Lots of Viking periods, lots of Renaissance, sort of like Italian Renaissance, as well as the Tudor period in England, and some people interested in more ancient and classical time periods as well.
We've got quite a lot of that here, and some people who are really high flyers in the 14th century kind of area as well. So Mistress Catherine's here, and she's a laurel for 14th century.
Wow.
Sort of knows everything. She's one of the many great resources and peers that we have here.
Well, leading on from that, I'm going to ask you about your personas. So, what are your personas in the society?
Want to go first, or?
I wouldn't know what to say. I guess being called Elizabeth is pretty wide berth. It can sort of do anything with a name like Elizabeth. I have done a lot of early Tudor stuff, and I'm heading a little earlier now. So I mostly do English and a little bit of Italian, and kind of late 15th century. I have a particular interest in the year 1486.
Nice.
That's just my thing. That's when the Medici family were given their pet giraffe, which is a special interest of mine. My device has it's a camelopard officially in the blazon, but it's recognizable as a giraffe.
So you like being given gifts of giraffes? Be very careful of what you say now.
Yes. No, we mostly don't want gifts of giraffes. Every time we get something special, we should have brought the big giraffe over.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a quite tall giraffe who lives in the corner.
Yeah. got an Elizabethan ruff on it.
Yes.
There was a lot of discussion as to whether the ruff would be like.
Oh yes, top of the neck or bottom of the neck.
Yeah.
It's a big question.
It's a big.
Yeah, that is a fair question.
Yeah.
So
It's top of the neck. So.
is there a name for the giraffe?
No, it's just giraffe.
Yeah.
Oh, never got a name.
Never got a name. Does he ever go to events, anything like that?
No, he hasn't been to an event, and we were quite grateful that we received the giraffe not at an event.
Yeah.
We don't want that sort of thing in baronial court or that kind of thing. So let's keep it sensible with the giraffe.
And Agostino, Your Excellency, your persona?
Yeah. So when I first joined the SCA, I had an interest in Italian Renaissance time period. I've sort of settled on about the year 1580 for no particular reason. Sorry, 1480. About then, no particular reason, but it meant I've got a mark to aim for when I'm doing research, and I can go a little bit earlier or a little bit later. Before stepping into the role of Baron, I did consider having or building a merchant persona, as that would give me a lot of leeway for using things that may not have been found in natively within Italy, but from what I've been reading about, it's people were trading everywhere all over the world. So if you wanted something, you would just throw money at the problem and buy it, which was very much a merchant mentality to that as well. Yeah.
So it's kind of worked out nicely that we both sort of do late 15th century, I guess, is where we're aiming. And I mostly do English, but we both do a bit of Italian, and we do a lot of Italian dance together. So we kind of match up.
Yeah.
But the clothes are a lot harder to make. So Agostino ends up in Viking tea tunics a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They're comfortable. I have to say, for wearing this today, they're very comfortable.
Great for outdoor events as well.
Yeah. So how did you both get started in the SCA?
Well, for me, I started with our local college. At the time, there was a college at Murdoch University known as
College of St. Lazarus of Bethany.
Yep, St. Lazarus of Bethany. At the time I joined, it's a college that's come and gone over the years, well before our time, through various names, but that's the name that actually got paperwork submitted for it. So currently dormant now, but if it were to kick off again, it would have that name. That name being I think it was the third iteration of the college. So Phoenix is rise from the ashes, so we'll Lazarus is sort of like that Lazarite zombie sort of biblical feel. So we'll put a phoenix on our device and give ourselves this name, St. Lazarus, and go from there. It was predominantly a college focused on armored combat, but we also did a lot of cross-pollination with where Elizabeth started, which I'll let you get into that, where we got exposed to ANS and the society in general as how we know it today.
I started at the College of St. Basil the Great, boom, boom, as we say, at the University of Western Australia. So that's where I started. I never really intended to join. It was all an accident. I was at, the club's O Day with one of my friends from high school, like first new thing as a new grown up out of school. And my friend was like, oh, this looks really fun. Let's join up. And I was like, well, I guess I'll give it a go. And she came a few times. I was in for a few weeks, and I went once and was hooked. Thanks to the really great leadership at the time of the college. Lady Helen Hartshorn was seneschal of the college at the time, and she taught me to finger loop braid, and she taught me a couple of dances, and that was my life, basically. Just totally changed my world. So that was how I started. I already knew about the SCA. I have a bit of a unique backstory with the SCA, I guess, but that was how I joined, and then that's how we met as well. So we were both. I was seneschal of my college, and he was seneschal of his college, and
and you joined seneschalettes, and it's all flourished from there.
Exactly.
So you did mention a backstory. I'm going to ask about the backstory. How did you know about the SCA?
So my parents played in the SCA back in the 80s in Sydney, so in Rowaney, or slightly before it was Rowaney, actually. So I grew up on stories of the SCA. I used to play dress-ups in mum's garb. I wore it to like a dress-up disco in high school, that kind of thing. So I grew up on all these stories and hearing about these kind of legendary figures. So the same way that people talk about King Arthur and that kind of thing, I heard about Mistress Rowan and about Torg and Lindore and about Balrog's farm and the Little Rock War and all that kind of thing. So,
wow, I remember Little Rock War. I remember going to Little Rock War. That's how long ago. So yeah.
My parents stopped playing before I was born, so that they had a few years and they knew a lot of the people, and then they stopped playing. So I didn't grow up in the SCA at all, but I grew up on stories of it. And so then when I joined, it was like, oh, that's this thing that mum and dad have always talked about, and I can wear mum's dress, which I did to a lot of fest events. So
wow, so you kind of like a roundabout second generation.
first and a half is what I say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. So how long have you guys been Baron and Baroness of Aneala?
It's been 2.5 years.
Yeah.
The time.
How have you found it?
Mostly pretty good.
Yeah.
Because we had an interview with Margie and John, who have just stepped up. They're 2 months into their tenure. And one of the comments that Lilia had made was about it being the marathon. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. Oh, it depends on the day, because sometimes it seems like a marathon and that sounds like really hard work and like it'll take forever and maybe you won't make it to the finish line. And some days it feels a bit like that. But to be honest, most of the time it's more just like a really cool party.
Nice.
It depends on the day. I definitely think there are major upsides to going for a longer time. So like I know crowns are usually in for that 6 months, and I don't think we could do the Baron and Baroness thing if it was only 6 months, because it took us at least that long to find our footing.
Yeah.
So it really did take some settling time into the role, but I feel like we're pretty settled now.
Yeah. And then just as we were sort of found our footing, just really felt where our field was going, then things changed.
Well, the world changed,
and the world decided to stay home for a bunch, and yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah. How are you keeping your populace engaged during all of this COVID craziness?
Well, currently, because of how well off Western Australia has come from all this, we've been able to step back into physical things a bit sooner, and pretty much as soon as the SCA had a plan for action for that. But we were still able to see people before that, just at a social setting. So we didn't have a populace that were too stir crazy. And I'm like, from talking to friends in Melbourne and Victoria, they're getting a bit stir crazy.
So we've been really lucky that we didn't have to do quite as much stuff online as a lot of other groups. So that's been good. But we did get quite enthused when we first had our little lockdown at the start. We did some videos.
Yep.
So we did a video missive, and I made a dance instruction video so you can learn Rostaboli Joyoso in your home. We made a short film.
Yep. It's very silly.
Yeah, we made it like a comedy short film which parodied different movie genres and was all about pandemic safety. So that was
awesome.
Yeah, so like the medieval version of like a silent film, and then like a western, and then like an 80s movie, which was a bit of an homage to Say Anything with John Cusack holding up the boombox, except we had like out in the garden holding up a guitar. So we got a bit silly with it.
Yeah.
And then we went a bit more sensible, and we did a regular Discord chat. We called it You, Me, and the B&B.
That's pretty awesome.
And we had a different topic just to inspire discussion, but really it was just a chance for those who were interested to get online and have a catch up while we weren't seeing each other.
Yeah.
As soon as there were kind of rumblings of, we might be able to get back to events, that all just stopped. So.
Oh, really? So are you finding that the online stuff has just kind of petered off a little bit?
Yeah, it's still useful for meetings.
Yeah. And we haven't hosted as many things like, say, having our council meetings through Discord now that we can have them in person again. But we do know there's a lot of members of the populace here who are like really diving into not just these sorts of interviews that are happening in Lochac, but all across the known world. People have, really taken to expanding their knowledge base.
Yeah,
through,
all the classes.
Yeah, and even like having stupid late nights or really early mornings to make some meetings and classes happen that are hosted in the kingdoms in the USA. It's been quite inspiring knowing that there's people getting stuff out of the technology side, and knowing that it's something that we could probably see continuing forwards from here. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I know that it does feel like that. Well, there is quite a distance between Aneala and the eastern coast of Lochac. So does it feel like it's a little bit closer now?
Yeah, it does. Maybe the coolest thing that happened, I think, was we went to the, can you pronounce it? The Lochac.
Wittingamot, I think.
The Crown invited all the B's and B's together, and we went to that. And being able to see all of our cousins in the other baronies kind of, face to face, basically, that was awesome. That was a really cool experience. So that was amazing, just getting to kind of meet everyone, because we hadn't met everyone. We were hoping to be at Rowaney Festival this year and do a lot of that, and of course it didn't happen. And then the other thing was we attended the Craig Arse Baronial Investiture as well, which is the sort of thing that we would have loved to be at, but realistically probably wouldn't have made it over to, even if we could have, because it's so far. And so being able to be there and see John and Margie invested was really cool.
So what would be one of your favourite moments of being Baron and Baroness so far?
We were talking about this, and it's so hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
Can I do mine?
Yeah, do yours.
I've got one that's kind of fresh in memory, and it's at our first event back after being locked down. We gave one of our baronial awards, which is the Order of the Black Feather, from a black swan, of course. And we give this award for people who jump in with both feet. So they get really involved in normally their first year or so in the SCA. And we were able to give that to Aoife, who's one of our fairly new members. And she joined up. Her first event that she went to was January. And so, of course, not the best time to be joining because, everything locked down shortly afterwards. But she has just been like incredibly active through the whole of lockdown. She's made like a million things, done a million classes, all this research, gotten into all these activities. And it was really exciting because we were like waiting. Like as soon as there's an event, we're going to give this award. And then we got to do that. So that was pretty amazing, being like, we've seen so much from you this whole time.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. For me, I think it was when another member of our populace, the Honourable Lady Elizabeth Severn, received her Silver Pegasus.
Being up front and getting to watch that.
Yeah, having the front row seats to that, and it was an award that was so well deserved as well, that we were glad both to have been able to do put forward the recommendation and back the recommendations that our populace had made, but also see it happen in like up close and personal was truly a lovely moment, I thought.
Yeah, being involved in like being at royal courts and getting that like front row view is probably one of the most amazing things. Being Baron and Baroness, you get to like you see everyone's faces when they receive an award from the Crown, and you see everyone who starts crying, and
always have tissues handy. That is definitely one. Yeah. Oh, that is amazing. And some of the stories that are in there are just fantastic. It's definitely, do you find that being on the thrones as Baron and Baroness, you kind of bond a lot more with the populace?
Yes and no. Yeah.
It's to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It certainly helps having an excellent herald, someone that we can bounce back and forward with, and in turn the populace as well, because that allows us to not just engage with the populace on a day-to-day life, day-to-day scale, but during court as well, and it makes court feel a little more inclusive, which especially lately, as people have missed that aspect, it's been fun to have courts which are a bit more audience participation.
Yeah, and we certainly have we have more opportunities now than ever before to connect with the populace. So that's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
I
think we seem a little distant. When you're sitting on your chairs and kind of being like on the throne, like on the throne chair. I think sometimes.
So I have to say, one of the things, my first visit over there was when I was Queen. And I absolutely loved it because the barony created such an atmosphere for the event and had a musical group and had singing and it didn't overpower the event either. So is that a standard thing that you have happening at events?
It's a little reduced because a lot of our musicians moved away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I believe some of them might be watching. So
pressure, but
no, lots of pressure. Come home. But but I will say the Honourable Lady Isabel de Annesley, she leads our music group here in Aneala. She's incredibly talented, and she plays the portative organ, which is a super cool instrument. And she often will bring that to events and will play music in the background, and it really adds to the ambience and to the feel of the event, and it's something that I really love and certainly hope.
Yeah.
Wow, that it just sounds amazing. It really does, and I love going over there. Anyone, definitely go over to Aneala. Absolutely amazing. So I'm going to ask you each. It's a bit of a hard one because it's about what is your proudest moment of your SCA?
Yep, it is a hard one.
Yeah. So is this whilst we've been Baron and Baroness, or?
No. Throughout your SCA tenure.
I've got a sensible one and a silly one.
Sure, go for it.
A sensible one would be when, one of my main interests is armored combat, and I have been training on and off for most of the time that I've been in the SCA. So there's lots of 2 steps forward, 1 step back moments where I'll stagnate or forget things, or just the things that happen when you don't rock up to training. One of my proudest moments was a moment where it was a tournament where things had just clicked, where I was fighting a polearm, fighting with a polearm, which I don't ordinarily do, against someone with a polearm. And it was like a combination of things that had happened that let me see what was happening, and I understood a concept that had been drilled into my head, but I just wasn't getting, having a little small motion to block yourself or defend yourself instead of swinging wildly and then dying because you swung wildly. But it happened in the tournament, so there was this aha moment, and then my opponent had also seen that, and from there I was just sad, because that's what you do. So that was one of those moments where it's that was very self-inspiring, I guess, where it's I can learn this thing that I like doing. And the silly one was, I think, when not sure if I was just because I was accidentally sober enough to look after the fire but I ended up being the responsible adult looking after a fire. So okay, when did that happen? Coming from a college when I first joined, where the collegians would often run wild a little bit, transitioning to that, so it's okay.
Now you're a grown up.
Yeah, now I'm a grown up.
No, it's no fun being grown up sometimes.
I think we're still seen as quite young, both of us.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Proudest moment. Stepping up as Baroness was a huge one. Just knowing that the Crown and I guess the populace, because they had to write in with opinions, knowing that they had the confidence in us that we could do this, that was pretty huge. But otherwise, maybe one of my awards that I've received is the Prometheus. And the reason that receiving that was my proudest moment was because it was Stefan and Bramwin on the throne at the time, and Stefan asked the watching crowd, "What is this person known for?" And the entire populace who were gathered all said dancing, and that was a really lovely moment. So that's what I received the award for, is teaching dancing locally. But the fact that everyone knew who I was and knew what I did, that was really special. So I feel particularly proud of that one. Yeah. Just felt very seen as a person.
Oh, that is amazing. And we ask about these proudest moments because they are so personal to us. And it's so nice to be able to explain and share them. And it's about the enthusiasm as well. And we actually have a question for you. And it's to do with an event that you have just has just been advertised on the Lochac announce list. And it's called Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain that to the rest of the kingdom? Because I don't think anywhere else in our kingdom does an event like this.
Oh, you should do. It's amazing. I believe it was started in Aneala by Mistress Rianwen. And so basically we run a tournament. It's just a day tournament. But instead of an entry fee, what we ask from the populace is that they bring a toy, so a new unopened toy, which gets donated to children. So we always run it at this time of the year, so right at the start of December or end of November. And we do a big collection, and it all gets donated to children who are less fortunate at Christmas and might not get Christmas presents or might not have a little joy around that joyful time of year. Last year we donated to the foster care shed, and I believe that's this year's donation as well. And we've done a few other options like St Vincent de Paul, and we've done Variety charity. We did a women's refuge charity one year, which was really lovely to help them out. So just brightening up Christmas.
And sometimes we've been lucky, the charity would also accept canned goods as well. So they had it was not just toys, but there was also the pantry items that people could donate as well. And it was it's always really inspiring seeing that we'll put out a trestle table and put it next to the constable's table and go, okay, we'll put the toys, but then it'll be a second trestle table and baskets underneath it, and it's just like,
the populace is incredibly generous, and it's such a good opportunity to do what we love. So we get to have a tournament and have a fun day, but also really feel like we're contributing to the community and giving back a little bit. I think that's quite special. We actually did another charity tournament this year as well. We raised some money and gave that to the bushfire. It was the WA Emergency Services Volunteers Hardship Assistance Scheme. Long name. But especially because of all the fires all the time, but in particular last year and kind of beginning of this year, we wanted to feel like we were making a difference.
Oh, that is such an amazing community spirit. It really is. I know that Dragons Bay have just gotten a community recognition award. Can you explain a little about that? Because this is an absolute celebration, and I really would love everyone to hear about it.
Yeah, we're really proud of them in the canton of Dragons Bay. Basically, their local council of the area where they play, someone must have submitted them. As far as we know, that's still a mystery. But basically, they've been nominated for an award for community groups who show great community involvement and community spirit. So, it's really exciting, and it's a real testament to all of the work and just the activity that's been going on in that group, because they've really they've had a lot of growth and they've been really flourishing, and it's really great to see that.
Yeah, that is an amazing achievement, and it shows about that community involvement. I know there's a lot of discussion around retention and recruitment, which is always at every level, and how important that community involvement really is to just engage with people and show them. I think it's very much about how we show our passion to the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do like to ask, and it's a little bit of a campfire story. So do you have any stories that you like to share and to tell around a campfire? It doesn't have to be PG. That that you could throw people under the bus or under the wheels, or just sharing that kind of special aspect.
I do love to tell stories.
Excellent.
You probably don't want to get me started though. I tell quite long stories. I think of 2 stories that would be quite good to share. Do you have one in mind? The time you got lost.
Apparently, the time I got lost, well, I knew where I was.
You'd better tell the story of the time you got lost.
Well, I'll tell it from my perspective, because there was an event where, as we're both in the college still, and very young, and I had quite a few beverages in me already, and I think there was we'd had a minor disagreement. I think maybe I'd didn't want to go to bed yet and thought I'll keep partying, but Elizabeth was saying no, you're fighting tomorrow, you have to look after yourself. So I wandered off in my in my very warm wool-lined cloak, and evidently she was right, because my response was to go have a nap in the college pavilion anyway. So clearly it was bedtime. Fighters, listen to your consorts. And I was quite comfortable, because the college has, it's always maintained a pavilion where collegians could go at any time and relax and chill out for a bit. So there's always rugs and pillows, and it's quite cozy. It's got walls that come down as well, and it was quite sheltered. So I just wandered in there and wrapped myself up in my cloak, had a bit of a nap, and then woke up at one point, having rolled over, being uncomfortable, and gone back to the tent. At least that was my perspective.
Wasn't my perspective. Because I realized that Agostino had not come back to bed in the tent, so I got up and had also been imbibing. That may have been a part of this story, but wander up to a bunch of awake people, and I had a bit of a look around myself, but then I went up to these people and I was like, oh no, like, he's lost. Agostino's lost. And basically organized a huge search party of mostly drunk people. Not all. Mostly. There were some, it was mostly drunk people, which may have been part of the problem. But in my defense, there were still some sober people in that search party. Could not find him. We looked all over site. Quite a big site, lots of like ovals, some bushland, a big road. We're like, oh no, has he drunkenly wandered onto the road? Has he tried to walk home? Like, oh no, what's happened here? Did a few laps like right past the St. Lazarus College Pavilion. Big pile of blankets and pillows. No Agostino. And that's from the sober people as well. Yep. We did eventually find him, of course. Still lost.
Yeah.
But I was very upset. I was, quite drunk and couldn't find my partner, and I was in tears, and I'm like, oh no, someone help me. So sorry for me, and also found it hilarious. So Agostino insists he wasn't lost, but I think he was.
Yeah, I can see that. He knew where he was. You just didn't. Yeah.
I guess the other story that's really fun to tell is that at a recent baronial championship, was it last year?
I think it was last year, yeah.
Lady Susanna de Plume ran part of the event called the Vegetable Olympics.
Yes.
Which was really cool, and I highly recommend doing a Vegetable Olympics. It was amazing. It was all these kinds of obstacles and activities and challenges all themed around vegetables. Yeah. So it was, like eat all the peas from a plate or something, and there was throw a beetroot at an egg. Is that it?
Yes.
Throw an egg at a beetroot? No, or maybe it was a turnip. I don't know, some vegetable. Only one person was successful. She was 8. All the adults.
Wow.
But the really great part of the story is that one of the last bits of it was a pumpkin race where you had to transport a pumpkin from one place to another place without using your hands. And I think the actual instruction was use a spoon.
Yeah, you had to
Yes, you had to use the spoon. Yeah. So some people did it the right way, using the spoon to push a big pumpkin along. And someone doing it the correct way was, in fact, the eventual winner. But the Honourable Lord Loki Wrecker, known for his mischief, I will say.
Loki, it's in the name right there.
He very much lives up to that. He attempted to game the system somewhat by putting the spoon against the pumpkin and kicking it. With the thought that if you give the pumpkin a big old boot, it'll cross the finish line and he would be the winner. He wasn't the winner, and also he broke his toe.
Oh. Did the pumpkin explode?
No,
pumpkin was fine.
Oh, that's okay then. That would have been a waste of a good pumpkin.
And then all around the edge of the fire pit the next morning, there were all these charcoal drawings of Loki versus the pumpkin.
That it does sound like something that has to be documented.
Yes, it was quite sad. He couldn't fight for a little while, which,
Yes.
if you know Loki, you'll know that's a major problem for him.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
outside, but it was pretty hilarious.
I would like to go back to some of the regalia that you have that gets passed on from each baron and baroness. You mentioned that you have a scroll.
Yeah, we it normally hangs on our wall in our entranceway, but we brought it down because we thought it's really cool to show off. Do you want to?
Sure.
It's just there in the corner of the shot. So we've brought down Aneala's foundation scroll. I will say we've got a really great community of scribes, and still do, but clearly we did in history as well. So this is the foundation scroll, which is just like the most incredible thing, I think. So it's basically stating that Aneala can be a barony, and the first baron and baroness will be Stevig and Rhiannon. And
down below is the signatures from
and there's all the signatures, and there's some names on there that we still know to this day who still play. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing the history that each group does collect. Yeah. I know that I haven't seen many of the foundational scrolls, but the ones that I have seen are their own works of art. They really are. And considering quite a lot of our baronies were created in the last century, and just with the evolution of knowledge and information and techniques that we apply, that they're still, that level is phenomenal.
Yeah, just amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could kind of see it on camera, but it's got all these little like symbols and little characters hidden all over the scroll, which we're told represent various people who were around at the time. So that's a bit
so it's a true scroll in those, when you look at it, particularly the 14th century, 14th, 15th, they've got the little bits in them.
There's no one riding a snail, sadly, but
oh man,
really good.
Yeah.
Are they riding a black swan?
They totally should have been. We'll make a new one.
There is the challenge. Is there something in there?
Yeah. So that's a real treasure that we get to keep while we're Baron and Baroness, and it's really exciting to have it on display because this is just this year's the first time we've actually been able to display it. Yeah, it's too heavy to hang on like stick-on hooks, so we've been renting and couldn't put it up anywhere, and now we're in our own place and we got to put it on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. That really is. So, what other regalia do you receive as B&B of Aneala?
So we get the
coronets, of course.
Yes, the coronets.
Yep.
That's probably the most obvious thing. I wonder, should we hold it up to the camera? Yeah. They're really beautiful. I will say we've got like just the most incredible coronets because they've got the pearls on top and the wreaths and the swans and the blue gems, sapphires maybe. Don't know. But yeah, so they're super beautiful. Is it on screen?
There we go.
Thank you. We're really fortunate to be able to wear these, which is good. We've got we should have brought them out. We've got fealty collars, which so they're actually really interesting because they're velvet collars and they have on them these metal swans. Yeah, so a metal swan's head coming out of the base with a gemstone. A gemstone. And so the swans, the original set of swans come from the original baronial coronets. So we've got these ones now, but there was an original one which had swans on it. And so they've been dismantled and the swans are now all on the fealty collars. Mm-hmm. And then the gems represent each set of barons and baronesses. There's like a gem that represents like me and a gem that represents Agostino, and there's one for like Damien and one for Leone and one for Bramwell and one for Killick and one for Lachlan and one for Jane and we could go back. Yeah. I'm not sure I can go back, but I can go forwards. Party trick I've been practicing. I can name all 10 of Aneala's Barons and Baronesses. So that's
Wow.
we're the 10th. And I know all the others in the right order, I'm pretty sure. So that's what I've been working on.
Yeah.
That is such an amazing way to represent the history, though, and to keep all of those little bits going and not being lost.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And you can look at them and you can go, I know who that is. Like, I know who chose that stone, and it's all really personal. We've got lapis lazulis as ours because that's a bit of a theme we have going. Is everything we do, we kind of stick a lapis lazuli on it. You can tell which one is Sir Nathan's, for example, because it's green. It's a really beautiful one. You can really tell something about who was Baron and Baroness in the past by looking at it. So that's beautiful.
Wow, that really is. Well, unfortunately, that's our time up for today.
That's great.
Thank you so much for your patience while we sorted out our technical difficulties. And
These things happen.
Yep.
Thank you for having us on your show. It's been really exciting.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome, and definitely one of the things that we've been trying to do. We're super keen for the rest of the known world to meet our barons and baronesses, because we don't have principalities, and they are the strength of the baronies and keeping that royal lineage. So thank you for your time, and thank you so much for everybody who's been watching. Very, very soon we will be back on track with another interview. We're interviewing Duke Frederick of Holland, known as Fleeg, which is very exciting. He's one of the founding members of the SCA, so it will be awesome. And thank you for joining us with this amazing interview with Agostino and Elizabeth from Aneala. Just thank you again, and we will see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.